Have you ever met someone and within 30 seconds thought, wow, there is just something about this person? You couldn't put your finger on exactly what it was. They weren't necessarily the most conventionally beautiful person in the room. They weren't wearing the most expensive outfit. But something about them pulled you in like a magnet. That's not luck. That's not genetics. That's a collection of tiny, almost invisible habits that most people never think about. And today we're breaking all 15 of them down. Level up guy here, stick with me through this entire video, because number 7 is the one that most people overlook completely, and it might be the single most powerful shift you can make starting today. And just so you guys know, real self-improvement covers every area of your life, whether you realize it or not. That's why I'll be making recommendations for all areas of self-improvement, including making more money in your finances. So to help, I've linked a tool called Chart Prime below that uses AI to make investing a lot less overwhelming. Let's get into it. Number 1, they drink water constantly, and it shows. This one sounds almost too simple to be worth mentioning, but the research is clear. Your skin, your energy levels, your ability to focus, even the quality of your voice, all depend heavily on how hydrated you are. People who make hydration a non-negotiable daily habit start to carry themselves differently. Their eyes look clearer. Their skin has a natural brightness that no filter can replicate. Make it stupidly easy. Keep a water bottle visible at all times. If you have to think about drinking water, you'll probably forget. Number 2, they go to sleep and wake up at the same time every single day. We've been sold this idea that successful, attractive people hustle through the night and rise at 4 a.m. with boundless energy. The truth is, the most magnetic people tend to be the most well-rested ones. Consistent sleep schedules regulate your mood, reduce under-eye shadows, improve your posture because you're not dragging yourself through the day, and massively improve your emotional regulation. When you sleep well, you stop snapping at people. You stop being reactive. You become calm and grounded, and that is deeply attractive to almost every human on Earth. Number 3, they do one thing at a time. We live in a culture that worships multitasking. But here's what actually happens when you give someone your full, undivided attention in a world where everyone is half distracted. It feels extraordinary. People who practice single tasking, who put their phone face down, who look you in the eye, who complete one conversation before starting another, they become memorable. They make people feel genuinely seen. That feeling is irresistible. Number 4, they practice the 2-minute rule for their appearance. This isn't about spending hours getting ready. It's about those 2 minutes of intention every morning, running a brush through your hair, checking that your clothes aren't wrinkled, making sure there's nothing in your teeth before a meeting. It's the tiny polish that signals to the world, and to your own brain, that you take yourself seriously. Self-respect radiates outward. Number 5, they read or learn something new every single day. Attractive people are interesting people, and interesting people are usually curious people who never stopped learning. Even 15 minutes a day of reading, a podcast during your commute, a documentary before bed, over months and years, this compounds into a person who has genuinely fascinating things to say. People are drawn to those who can offer a new perspective, tell a compelling story, or introduce them to an idea they'd never considered. Number 6, they move their body every day, even if it's just a walk. Now, before you think this is just about looking fit, hear me out. Daily movement changes how you carry yourself. It affects your posture, your confidence, your mood, your stress levels, and the way you walk into a room. People who move daily tend to have a certain aliveness about them, an energy that sedentary life slowly drains. You don't need a gym membership. A 20-minute walk changes your brain chemistry. It changes how you feel about yourself. And how you feel about yourself changes everything. Number 7, they keep their space clean and organized. Here it is. The one most people skip right past. Your environment is constantly feeding information back to your brain. When you live and work in clutter, it creates this low-level background noise of stress and incompleteness that affects your mood, your confidence, and eventually how you present yourself to the world. People who maintain clean, organized spaces tend to be clearer thinkers, calmer in social settings, and more intentional in how they show up. And there's another layer here. When someone visits your space and it's tidy and thoughtfully arranged, the impression it creates is almost subconscious. It communicates that you have your life together, even if everything isn't perfect. Number 8, they are intentional about the information they consume, including financial information. This one is going to step on some toes. Endless scrolling and constant news consumption creates anxiety, comparison, and a worldview that's permanently focused on problems and outrage. People who deliberately limit this input tend to be calmer, more present, more creative, and more genuinely happy. And there's something interesting that happens to people who master this habit. They stop being reactive. They stop letting outside noise dictate their internal state. They become the kind of person who feels grounded and in control no matter what's happening around them. That quality is rare, and it is deeply magnetic. But here's the layer that almost nobody in self-improvement talks about. The same principle applies to how you consume financial information. And this matters more than people realize because financial stress is one of the single biggest sources of background anxiety in modern life. It sits there quietly undermining your confidence, your presence, and your ability to show up fully in every area of your life. Most people handle this in one of two ways. They either avoid their finances completely because it feels too overwhelming to look at, or they doom scroll financial news and market updates that spike their cortisol without actually giving them any clarity or direction. Both of those responses come from the same place, a lack of a real system. And this is exactly where AI is changing everything right now. Because the reason most people feel overwhelmed by investing isn't that it's actually impossible to understand. It's that the traditional way of doing it requires hours of chart reading, pattern recognition, and market analysis that most people simply don't have the time or training for. ChartPrime solves that entire problem. It's an AI-powered trading tool built on TradingView that does all of that heavy lifting for you automatically. The AI identifies trends, spots key market patterns, and highlights the levels that actually matter in real time. So instead of spending hours staring at confusing data, trying to figure out what you're even looking at, you open it up and the picture is already clear. It takes what used to require serious expertise and makes it accessible to anyone. And here's what I want you to understand about why this matters beyond just money. When you have a system, when you have clarity instead of chaos in your finances, that background anxiety starts to dissolve. You stop carrying that low-grade financial dread into your social interactions, your relationships, your daily presence. You show up differently, more grounded, more confident, more like the kind of person we've been talking about this entire video. The link is below. If you've been putting off getting serious about your finances because it felt too complicated or too overwhelming, this is the tool that removes that excuse entirely. Number 9. They maintain their social connections consistently, not just when they need something. There's a word for people who only reach out when they want a favor or need advice, and it's not a flattering one. The habit of checking in with people just to check in, sending a message to say you thought of someone, remembering important events in the lives of people you care about. This creates a reputation as someone who genuinely invests in others. And people who genuinely invest in others are people that others want to be around. Your social life literally shapes your attractiveness. Number 10. They practice gratitude in a way that actually changes their default perspective. Not just writing 3 things in a journal every morning and moving on. We're talking about actually sitting with it, letting your brain rewire around appreciation rather than scarcity. People who have cultivated genuine gratitude tend to be more positive without being fake, more resilient without being dismissive, and more joyful in a way that naturally draws people toward them. Bitterness and resentment are repellent. Genuine warmth and appreciation are magnetic. Number 11. They pause before responding. Watch the most charismatic, confident people in conversations. They don't rush to fill silence. They think, then they speak. This single habit does multiple things simultaneously. It makes your words carry more weight because you only say things you've actually considered. It prevents you from saying things you regret. It signals calm, self-assurance, and emotional maturity. In a world where everyone is constantly reacting without thinking, the person who pauses becomes the most powerful presence in any room. Number 12. They follow through on what they say they will do. This is massive and it operates on 2 levels. The obvious level is that people who keep their promises build reputations of trust and reliability. In a world where flakiness has become normalized, someone who simply does what they say they'll do stands out dramatically. But the less obvious level is what it does internally. Every time you keep a commitment to yourself, even a tiny one like waking up when you said you would, or finishing the task you planned, you build self-trust. And self-trust, is the foundation of real confidence. Not the performed kind, the kind that comes from actually knowing you can count on yourself. Number 13. They spend time alone intentionally. Not scrolling alone, not binge-watching alone, actually alone with their thoughts, walking without headphones, sitting with a coffee and no screen. This habit builds something that is incredibly rare and deeply attractive, which is a sense of self that isn't constantly seeking external validation. People who are comfortable with silence and solitude tend to be more grounded, more interesting, and less needy in social situations. They don't require constant stimulation from others because they've learned to generate it from within. That kind of self-possession is captivating. Number 14. They make eye contact and use people's names. These two habits together are so straightforward, it almost feels like cheating. Making genuine, comfortable eye contact when someone is speaking to you tells them they have your full attention and that you respect them. Using someone's name in conversation is one of the most powerful ways to make a person feel acknowledged and valued. It's personal. It's warm. It's the difference between a transaction and a genuine human interaction. People forget what you said. They rarely forget how you made them feel. Number 15. They end each day with a brief self-reflection. Not harsh self-criticism, not obsessive overthinking, just a quiet 5 minutes at the end of the day to ask a few simple questions. Did I show up the way I wanted to today? What could I do differently tomorrow? What actually went well? This habit creates a feedback loop for growth. People who reflect regularly improve faster than people who don't, because they're actually processing their experiences rather than just living through them. Over time, this creates a person who is genuinely evolving, and there is nothing more attractive than someone who is clearly on a path of becoming more fully themselves. Now here's the thing that ties all of this together. Notice that none of these 15 habits are about dramatically changing who you are. None of them require you to transform your entire life overnight. They're all small, almost embarrassingly small, but that's the entire point. Attractiveness at its deepest level isn't about one big thing. It's about thousands of tiny signals that accumulate over time into an impression. It's about the energy you bring into a room, which is shaped by how you've been sleeping. It's about the clarity you communicate with, which is shaped by how intentionally you've been thinking. It's about the warmth you extend to others, which is shaped by how you've been treating yourself in private. Every single one of these habits is a vote, and every day you cast votes for the kind of person you're becoming. You might not see it in the mirror tomorrow. You probably won't feel dramatically different next week. But 6 months from now, a year from now, people in your life will start to notice something different about you. That undeniable magnetism that you couldn't quite explain in other people before. They'll feel it about you. And if you're thinking about where to start, here's my honest advice. Don't try to implement all 15 at once. That's how you burn out in 2 weeks and abandon everything. Pick the 2 or 3 that resonated most strongly with you. The ones where you thought, yeah, I know I've been neglecting that. Start there. Build momentum. Let momentum pull in the next habit naturally. The people you find most compelling in your life didn't become that way because of one dramatic decision. They became that way because of 10,000 small ones made consistently over time. You can be that person too. You're already on the path just by taking the time to watch something like this and actually thinking about how you want to show up in the world. That matters more than people give it credit for. If this video gave you something useful, drop a comment below and tell me which of the 15 habits you're committing to first. I genuinely read every single one of them, and I'd love to know. If you found value here, sharing it with someone who might need it today is one of the most genuinely kind things you can do. And if you want more content like this, subscribing takes 2 seconds and means you'll never miss a new video. I'll see you in the next one.